Welcome to the Survival Horror Ambience channel, your sanctuary for tales of terror and survival. Tonight, we bring you South Central Apocalypse, the gripping story of two brothers battling against the undead and their own past in the heart of Los Angeles. Prepare for a ride through chaos, heartbreak, and the ultimate fight for survival. If you enjoy edge-of-your-seat storytelling with vivid atmosphere and raw emotion, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's dive into the horror. Chapter 1. Blood on the Block. The sun was dipping behind the rooftops of Hyde Park, casting the streets in warm golden light. Ricky Lopez leaned against a graffitied wall, his black hoodie blending into the shadows. He didn't love the colors he wore, but they were the only protection he had for his little brother. His crew moved through the block like a tight-knit team, always on the lookout for trouble. Ree's thoughts kept drifting back to Marcus, his little brother, only 12, too smart for this life, too innocent for the kind of world they were living in. Ree hadn't joined the group by choice. It was just the way things worked around here. A person without backup didn't last long. "You good, Ree?" Tiny's voice cut through his thoughts. Tiny was anything but small. At 6'3", with the build of a linebacker, he looked more like a walking wall than a person. "Yeah, just thinking," Ree replied, flicking his cigarette into the gutter. Tiny grinned. "Careful, man. Too much thinking makes you soft." Before Ree could laugh it off, the sound of gunfire shattered the calm. A car screeched to a halt down the block, and three figures jumped out, clearly on a mission. They weren't here for a friendly chat. "Move," Ree shouted, instinct taking over as he pulled his pistol. Tiny was already returning fire, but the others were closing in fast. Ree ducked behind a parked car, hands trembling as he tried to steady his aim. His shots missed. Then, the scream cut through the chaos. Ree's eyes snapped to Tiny, who was on the ground, blood spreading around him. One of the attackers loomed over him, grinning. "No," Ree shouted, sprinting forward, his heart pounding in his chest. His shots missed again, and the man turned to face him. "You think you can stop me?" The man sneered. The man's hand trembled as he fumbled with his jammed weapon. Ree tensed, his instincts screaming at him to act, but before he could move, Tiny stirred, his movements slow, almost unnatural. His eyes looked distant, his expression blank, like he wasn't fully there. Ree's stomach twisted as Tiny reached for the man, gripping his arm too tightly. A sharp gasp filled the air, and the man struggled to pull away, confusion turning to panic. His friends hesitated for just a second before turning to run, their footsteps fading into the night. Ree didn't stay to watch. His heart pounded as he ran, his breath coming fast and uneven. By the time he reached home, his legs felt like they would give out. He pushed open the front door, the familiar warmth of home wrapping around him. The smell of Arroz con Palo filled the air, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. "Ricky, what's wrong?" His mother's voice was steady but concerned. Ree swallowed hard. "Mom, something's happening. Something bad." Before she could respond, the distant hum of an engine grew louder. A sudden crack rang out, followed by the sharp sound of glass breaking. Ree instinctively ducked, pulling his mother down with him as small shards scattered across the floor. When the noise faded, he looked up. His mother was holding her side, her face pale. A dark stain spread across her blouse. "Mom." Ree's voice wavered as he rushed to her. In the doorway, Marcus stood frozen, his face filled with uncertainty. "This is because of you," Marcus whispered, his voice shaking. Ree didn't argue. He carefully helped his mom up, his mind racing. He turned to Marcus. "We need to move, now." The world outside was changing fast. But maybe, if they hurried, they could still find help. Chapter 2. The Blood Price. The hospital was chaos. Ree pushed through the crowded emergency room, his mother limp in his arms. Blood soaked his hoodie, mixing with the metallic tang of antiseptic that filled the air. Marcus trailed behind, silent and shell-shocked. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as doctors and nurses rushed from patient to patient, their faces stretched thin with exhaustion. "Help," Ree shouted, his voice cracking. "Somebody, please." A nurse, her scrubs stained with blood, ran over with a gurney. "Lay her down." "What happened?" "She was shot," Ree said, his voice trembling. "Please, she's losing a lot of blood." The nurse nodded briskly, shouting over her shoulder. "Gunshot wound. Room 3, stat." As they wheeled his mother away, Ree grabbed the nurse's arm. "Is she going to be okay? We'll do everything we can," she said, her eyes softening. Ree nodded, though her words offered little comfort. He turned to Marcus, who stood against the wall, arms crossed tightly over his chest. His face was unreadable, but his eyes burned with a mixture of anger and fear. "This is your fault," Marcus said flatly, his voice cutting through the din like a knife. Ree opened his mouth to argue, but stopped. He couldn't deny it. If he hadn't joined the gang, if he hadn't been on that block, maybe none of this would have happened. "Stay here," Ree said finally, heading toward the waiting room. He needed air. The hospital was packed, the waiting room overflowing with injured people. Some looked like they'd been in car accidents. Others had wounds that didn't make sense, bite marks, scratches that ran too deep. A man sat in the corner, cradling his arm as blood dripped from a jagged tear. "What the hell is going on?" Ree muttered to himself. Suddenly, a scream ripped through the hospital. Ree spun around, his heart pounding. The sound came from the direction of the ER. "Mom," he whispered, bolting down the hallway. The scene he arrived at stopped him cold. Nurses and doctors rushed through the chaotic hospital halls, their voices filled with panic. Patients thrashed on their gurneys, their limbs moving in unnatural spasms. One doctor, a middle-aged man in glasses, was caught off guard as a patient lunged at him, knocking him to the ground. The struggle followed, but the doctor's pained cry was soon muffled. "Ree." Marcus's voice jolted him back to reality. Ree turned to see his brother standing in the doorway of their mother's room. Behind Marcus, their mother was stirring. But something was wrong. Her movements were stiff, unnatural, as if she was struggling against invisible strings. Her once warm eyes were now cloudy and distant. "Mom." Marcus took a hesitant step forward. "No." Ree grabbed his brother, pulling him back just as their mother moved with sudden, startling speed. She reached for Marcus, her expression blank, but filled with a strange urgency. A nurse burst into the room, gripping an IV stand like a weapon. "Get back," she shouted, stepping between them. With a quick swing, she knocked their mother away, sending her collapsing onto the hospital bed. "What's happening?" Marcus's voice trembled, his breath coming in quick gasps. The nurse, still gripping the IV stand, turned to them. "There's no time to explain. You need to get out of here." "But," restarted, his chest tightening. "No buts. This place isn't safe," the nurse said, already heading for the door. "If you want to make it, come with me." Ree tightened his grip on Marcus's arm and led him into the hallway. Around them, the hospital had erupted into chaos. Patients staggering through the corridors, doctors and nurses trying to contain the panic. They weaved through the confusion, following the nurse toward the emergency exit. When they finally pushed through the doors into the cool night air, Ree stopped to catch his breath. Marcus turned to him, his face pale, his eyes wide with shock. "What now?" Ree looked back at the hospital, now a hellscape of screams and flames. His hands shook, but he clenched them into fists. "We get out of the city," he said. "And we survive." Chapter 3. No safe place. The streets were unrecognizable. Ash and smoke rose in plumes against the night sky, casting an eerie glow over the neighborhood. Sirens wailed in the distance, mingling with the panicked screams of people trying to escape whatever hell had descended upon Los Angeles. Ree and Marcus moved like shadows along the alleyways, staying low and out of sight. The weight of what they'd just witnessed in the hospital pressed on Ree's chest like a vice. Marcus hadn't spoken since they'd left. He trailed a step behind Ree, his eyes wide and haunted. Ree wanted to say something, anything. But what words could fix this? What words could make sense of their mother's body attacking them, her face twisted into something unrecognizable? The brothers reached the intersection at Florence Avenue, where a small gas station stood like an island of light in the chaos. Ree stopped, peering around the corner. "We need food, water," Ree whispered. "You stay here, okay?" Marcus nodded silently, leaning against a brick wall. Ree didn't like leaving him alone, but he had no choice. The city was going to hell, and they needed supplies if they were going to survive. Gas station was in ruins. Broken glass scattered across the floor, shelves knocked over, and snack wrappers drifting in the breeze from a shattered door. Ree stepped carefully, his heart pounding. The place seemed empty, but something felt off. He grabbed a backpack and quickly filled it. Canned food, bottled water, a flashlight. As he reached behind the counter for a first aid kit, a low, unsettling sound made him freeze. Slowly, Ree turned. In the corner stood a man, his clothes torn and stained. His posture was strange, his head tilting in an unnatural way. Ree's grip tightened around the baseball bat he had grabbed earlier, his instincts telling him to be careful. Then, suddenly, the man lurched toward him. Ree reacted on instinct, swinging the bat. The impact sent the man stumbling back, giving Ree just enough time to turn and run, his backpack slung over his shoulder. "Marcus, let's go," Ree called as he rushed outside. No answer. A chill ran through him. He scanned the street, searching for any sign of his brother. Then he heard it, a muffled voice coming from a nearby alley. His breath caught as he sprinted toward the sound. There, Marcus stood frozen, cornered by two men. Unlike the man in the gas station, these guys looked completely aware. Gang members, their jackets marked with familiar symbols. "Well, look who we have here," one of them said, his tone sharp. Ree didn't stop to think. He moved fast, gripping the bat and stepping forward. The first man flinched as Ree swung, forcing him back. The second hesitated, giving Ree a moment to pull Marcus away. "Come on," Ree urged, keeping his eyes on them as they backed away toward the street. "Stay away from my brother," Ree shouted, his heart pounding with adrenaline. The second man hesitated for a moment before scrambling to his feet and running, leaving his friend groaning on the ground. Ree quickly turned to Marcus, helping him up. "Are you okay?" Ree asked, his voice unsteady. Marcus nodded, his eyes brimming with tears. "I didn't mean to," Ree interrupted gently. "Just stay close, all right?" With hurried steps, the brothers moved away, the city feeling more dangerous with every passing second. The streets were changing, fear and confusion everywhere. They couldn't stay here. They needed to find somewhere safe. As they disappeared into the night, the distant sound of helicopters and scattered gunfire echoed in the air, a haunting reminder that the world around them was unraveling. Chapter 4. The Road. By the time the sun began to rise, the streets of South Central LA were unrecognizable. Cars were abandoned in the middle of intersections, their horns blaring on a loop. Fires smoldered in crumbled buildings, and the air reeked of smoke and decay. Ree and Marcus moved cautiously, their every step echoing in the eerie silence. Ree tightened his grip on the bat. He couldn't shake the image of their mother's lifeless, snarling face. Marcus hadn't spoken since the alley, and Ree didn't push him. His brother's silence weighed heavy, a constant reminder of the nightmare they were living. "We need to find a car," Ree said finally, breaking the quiet. Marcus glanced at him, his face pale and hollow. "Where would we even go?" "Anywhere but here," Ree replied. They turned onto a side street, where a line of small houses stood in various states of disrepair. Ree spotted an old sedan parked in a driveway, the keys dangling from the ignition. He jogged over, motioning for Marcus to follow. "Stay close and keep watch," Ree said, sliding into the driver's seat. The engine sputtered but didn't start. Ree cursed under his breath, twisting the key again. Come on. A distant moan sent chills down his spine. He looked up to see figures shambling toward them from the end of the street. "Ree," Marcus said, his voice trembling. "I see them," Ree snapped. "Get in." Marcus scrambled into the passenger seat as the engine roared to life. Ree slammed the car into reverse, tires screeching as they backed into the street. He spun the wheel, shifting into drive just as the creatures reached the car, their hands slapping against the windows. "Go," Marcus shouted. Ree floored it, the car lurching forward. The dead tumbled away as the car barreled down the road. Ree's hands shook on the wheel, but he didn't let up, weaving through abandoned cars and debris. As they sped toward the freeway, the enormity of their situation sank in. The city wasn't just falling apart, it was gone. And Ree knew, deep down, that whatever was happening here wasn't contained to South Central. "Ree," Marcus said softly, staring out the window. "Do you think Mom?" Ree didn't answer right away. He couldn't. "I don't know," he said finally. They drove in silence for miles, the cityscape giving way to the outskirts of LA. Ree's mind raced. They needed a plan, supplies, maybe even a safe place to regroup. But every option felt like a dead end. The car sputtered and slowed, pulling Ree from his thoughts. No, Ree muttered, slapping the dashboard. The gas gauge hovered on empty. Ree pulled over to the side of the road, parking near a cluster of abandoned vehicles. "Stay here," he told Marcus. Marcus grabbed his arm. "Don't leave me, man. Not again." Ree hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but stick close." The two brothers moved cautiously between the cars, searching for anything useful. Ree found a half-empty water bottle and a crowbar in one car, while Marcus discovered a can of soup. As they rummaged, a sharp sound, a metallic clang, cut through the air. "What was that?" Marcus whispered. Ree motioned for him to stay quiet. They crept toward the noise, finding a man rummaging through the trunk of a car. His clothes were torn, his face streaked with dirt. He didn't look like one of the dead, but something about him set Ree on edge. "Hey!" Ree called out, keeping his voice firm. The man spun around, clutching a knife. His eyes were wild, desperate. "Back off," he shouted. "Relax," Ree said, raising his hands. "We're just looking for gas." The man's gaze flicked to Marcus, then back to Ree. "Ain't no gas here. Just get out of here before." A low growl interrupted him. Ree turned to see a group of walkers stumbling toward them, their movements growing faster as they closed in. "Run for it," Ree shouted, grabbing Marcus. The man turned to flee but tripped, the knife skittering from his hand. Ree hesitated for a split second before running back to pull him up. "Come on," Ree yelled, dragging the man to his feet. The three of them sprinted toward the car, the walkers gaining ground. Ree shoved Marcus into the back seat and climbed into the driver's seat, starting the engine with a prayer. The car roared to life, and they sped off, the dead disappearing in the rearview mirror. "Thanks," the man said between gasps, clutching his side. "Don't thank me yet," Ree replied, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. Chapter 5. Blood and Fire. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the desolate highway as Ree kept his eyes on the road. The tension in the car was thick, every second dragging on like an eternity. Marcus sat in the back seat, staring blankly out the window, while the man they had picked up, who introduced himself as Darren, checked the knife Ree had handed back to him. "You're lucky we didn't leave you back there," Ree said, breaking the silence. Darren smirked. "Guess you got a soft spot for strays." Ree shot him a glare but said nothing. Darren might have been a risk, but another pair of hands could prove useful. "Where we headed?" Darren asked. Ree didn't answer immediately. He had no idea. The road out of LA felt endless, and the world beyond it was an unknown filled with horrors he couldn't comprehend. "East," Ree muttered. "Away from all this." Darren nodded, his expression unreadable. "Smart. Cities are death traps now." The car's fuel gauge dipped closer to empty, a grim reminder that their escape was on borrowed time. Ree pulled over at the first gas station they came across, its sign hanging crookedly above shattered windows. "Stay here," Ree told Marcus again, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Not a chance," Marcus said, his voice stronger than it had been all day. Ree hesitated, then nodded. "All right, stay close to me." Darren followed, his knife ready in his hand. The station was eerily quiet, the only sounds coming from the faint buzz of a flickering neon sign. Inside, the shelves were mostly bare, looted by those who had fled before them. "Split up," Ree said. "Grab what you can, quick." Every shadow felt like a threat, every sound like a prelude to something worse. In the back of the store, Marcus found a small stash of water bottles and a few cans of food. He reached for them, but a sound behind him made him freeze, a low, guttural growl. "Ree," Marcus whispered, his voice shaking. Ree rounded the corner just in time to see a walker lurching toward his brother, its milky eyes locked on him. Ree didn't think. He swung the bat with all his strength, the impact sending the creature sprawling. "Marcus, move," Ree shouted, shoving his brother toward the exit. The commotion drew more of the dead. They emerged from the back rooms and outside, shambling toward the noise. Darren fought them off with surprising skill, his knife flashing in the dim light. "Go!" Darren yelled, slashing at a walker's throat. Ree grabbed Marcus, dragging him toward the car. Darren followed, narrowly avoiding a walker's grasp. They piled into the vehicle just as the creatures reached the parking lot. Ree floored it, the tires screeching as they sped away. For a moment, the only sound was their heavy breathing. "We can't keep doing this," Marcus said, his voice cracking. Ree reached over and squeezed his brother's shoulder. "We'll figure it out. We'll get through this." Darren chuckled darkly from the passenger seat. "You keep saying that, but have you looked around? This world's done, man. It's every man for himself now." Ree glared at him. "Not for us. We're sticking together." Darren raised his hands defensively. "Suit yourself. Just don't let that loyalty get you killed." As the sun set, casting the world into darkness once more, Ree knew Darren wasn't entirely wrong. The old rules were gone, and survival was the only law that mattered. But as long as Marcus was alive, Ree would fight to keep some semblance of hope alive. Because in a world gone mad, hope was the only thing worth clinging to. Thank you for joining us on the Survival Horror Ambience channel for South Central Apocalypse. We hope this story kept your pulse racing and your imagination alive. What would you do to protect the ones you love when the world crumbles around you? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more haunting tales, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Until next time, stay safe and beware of the dark.